Hey!
Hey! And we are
Man,
live.
I keep forgetting about that sound effect.
Yeah.
It's all right, I got
One of these days, you'll get it, Ryan. We'll have that built in, right?
That's right.
Going live for the CoinSec Podcast. Boo, boo, boo. Awesome.
Cool.
Welcome, everyone, to the CoinSec Podcast. This is episode number 48. We have a lot to talk about today. We've got lots of awesome stories to go through. And a few hacks, a few interesting news stories. It's actually a couple that are not even like security related, but they're kind of fascinating to kind of go through today. And yeah, if you want to follow along with the notes, we actually have a link to the show notes in the description for the video, for the live video that's on right now. And later on, if you're listening, you can find those show notes on CoinSecPodcast.com. Today, for your hosts, you've got myself, Bo Bullock. We've got Steve Borish.
Hello.
What's up, Steve? We've got Ralph May wearing a sweet free EVGA shirt they got for waiting 10 months for
That is the fact. I wait 10 months for a GPU. And you know what I did? Check this out. I didn't need the GPU. Okay. I had one and I bought it because I had waited 10 months. I bought it and then I sold it to someone else who needed it to play video games for the same price that I bought it. So
you are a saint, sir.
You are a gentleman.
And also, we've also got Ryan, the shootist, with us today.
Yep. This is the only time you're going to hear me talk.
He's the man behind the curtain. He runs the magic here for the show. So we appreciate Ryan being on. So, all right, guys, do you want to just hop right into it?
Jump into the news.
Let's do it. All right. So first up, we've got a ransomware story.
No way.
You know, it's on. It feels like it's been a while since we've talked about ransomware. You know, it's something that happens pretty often in the news. And I know you guys, Ralph. When you do the news for the BHIS news, I know you guys talk about ransomware pretty often.
It's every damn time, dude. Every
time. But yeah, so I thought it'd be fun to throw one in here. But basically, so European electronics outlet MediaMarkt, M-A-R-K-T, was reportedly investigating a Hive ransomware attack launched on Sunday evening, with the attackers demanding a multi-million-dollar ransom in Bitcoin. I believe it was actually $240 million to be specific, which is that's pretty high, right, guys? I mean, of all the ransomware,
that's a good one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, MediaMarkt is Europe's largest consumer electronics retailer with over 1,000 stores in 13 countries. While online sales continue to function as expected, cash registers cannot accept credit cards or print receipts at affected stores. So, this is a Hive ransomware. So I'm not too familiar with Hive. Ralph or Steve, are you guys familiar with Hive?
I am familiar. It encrypts files and then makes it so you can't use them.
Nice.
Jeez.
That was good.
I mean, yeah. Other than short of having some kind of, worming capability, they're all the same pretty much. They may use different types of encryption or may mess up and have the key in there or whatever. But yeah, they're all pretty much doing the same thing, I think. This one I haven't heard specifically about how it gets into the networks. I do know the FBI has released some stuff on this one, so it must be pretty prevalent.
Didn't we, Steve? I think you sent a tweet maybe about some ransomware that's targeting, I think it was exchanges recently, specifically.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, I believe, the last time we were on, and that's kind of why this kind of popped into my head too, was that ransomware affects all industries, regardless of whether you're a meat producer or pipeline or whatever. Some of the major ones we've heard in the news lately, as far as information security and stuff goes. But yeah, it can happen to anyone, and even cryptocurrency exchanges, I would say, would be a huge target. If you could ransom them, they've got the Bitcoin to pay and stuff like that. So. Yeah, we see basically across all industries. So, MediaMarkt, I don't know what their like capital situation is. That 240 million sounds really high for a ransomware attack.
Jeez, yeah, it definitely does. I was reading there was another article recently too that I guess because speaking of $240 million, that these ransomware groups now are, with all of the money they're getting, they're actually now buying 0 days to conduct their ransomware attacks. So yeah, that's scary stuff, right? Once the wheels start turning, it gets a little brutal to keep up when they start getting 0 days, and then you pay them, and you just keep paying them to get stronger. So yeah,
Sure.
dangerous stuff.
Well, with ransomware, we do see the conversation focus around the fact that these ransomware operators are requesting some form of cryptocurrency, and then we get into the debate that these ransoms wouldn't happen without cryptocurrency, and a lot of people don't understand that business email compromise is a huge part of information security, and so you don't need ransomware to get money from these companies. We see a lot of times companies' mail system will get hacked, and then the attacker will take an invoice or something that they see in the email system and then copy it and make their own invoice, and the company will just pay them. We've seen millions and millions of dollars lost for basically invoice fraud and business email compromise. And I would say overall, it's probably pretty comparable to the ransomware market. So don't just think that ransomware or cryptocurrency
is the cause of
is the
ransomware.
cause. Certainly, it enhances it. It makes it a little bit easier, right? But it's not the only avenue of attack for malicious computer attackers or network.
Leaving a note on the desktop that says like, "Hey, meet me at this time around this alley and drop off this much money."
Yeah, right. Meet me behind the bowling alley on 3rd and 5th.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there is some benefits to having cryptocurrency when it comes to making this transaction, but is it cryptocurrency that's causing this? No, that's not true.
All right, moving on. So Robinhood, major trading app, had a data breach. So in which hackers socially engineered a customer service representative to then gain access to the email address of more than 5 million customers. I know Ralph's opinion on just getting email, but I want to hear you guys like what your thoughts are on just getting those addresses.
Well, it's Pandora's box. Now, you know where these users are logging into and using services, so you can set them up for the credential stuffing and phishing attacks for their personal accounts and things like that. So you don't need their passwords or multi-factor or anything like that to get some kind of get some kind of monetary incentive out of this.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other things too is they apparently had internal access to a tool that Robinhood would use that would allow them to see specific users' multi-factor authentication protections. So they had the ability to, I guess, determine whether or not Robinhood customers had MFA enabled in the first place.
So does this sound like a full breach where a system was compromised and a remote access Trojan or something like that was installed to remotely control a host inside the network? Or are we talking about?
I guess it depends on where the tool is, right? Because
because they talked to the customer service rep. Did they get them to run a PowerShell script, or did they get them to give them access to something on the web?
Maybe it's a web app. Yeah, it could be a web app, right? Like they could have an administrative interface on the internet somewhere. Like that could be a potential.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if more details come out around that on how exactly that happened.
Yeah, I think the big thing for people to take away is if you are a Robinhood customer, just be aware that you probably will get some sort of phishing email to that address. It's probably a given that's going to happen. I know, addresses that I've had part of various breaches in the past. Like I get phishing messages to those pretty often, and it's just people that now have that information, right, to connect a couple things, right, where you know this person logs into this financial site using this email address, makes it a lot easier to craft more targeted emails. Alrighty, moving on. So this next one, this is a wild story. This is an absolutely wild story. So basically,
a Florida man story.
It is. It sounds like a Florida man story. Exactly. All right. So the idea here is that, or the story here is that a man threatened to burn down Upbit exchange. Now, when I first read that headline, I was like, oh, so he just like probably went there and like just maybe started a fire outside or something. But no. So what the guy actually did is he doused himself in highly flammable paint thinner, and then walked inside, apparently, threatening to light himself on fire inside of this exchange in Seoul. So the police there managed to show up in time to stop him before he lit himself on fire inside of this building. But can you imagine, working at like an exchange and just somebody very upset with losing money in the market decides to come light himself on fire?
I mean, short of burning down the building, who's going to get hurt here? I mean, I'm standing back and being like, "Hey, man, you're going to do what you're going to do."
So
I'm not going to go
near you.
outside.
All right. So what about the whole idea of like your cold storage wallets and stuff? Like, is this in your threat model now?
Well,
like,
my goodness,
Backup? It should be.
I hope fire safety, is in there, that you've got your cold storage somewhere.
You would hope it's somewhere else, right?
It's on the thumb drive. It's on the thumb drive in the office. It'll be good.
Yeah. Offsite backup. It's like, I mean, that's 101 for, or you like your contingency plan for data, right? It's you have your data local, you have a local copy, and then you have an offsite copy, right? So.
Absolutely.
So I wonder how long it took for the police to get there, and how long he just stood there, soaked in whatever he was soaked in.
Who knows?
He sounded pretty upset though to do this. Does it say how much he lost?
No, I was gonna say it makes you wonder what he invested in specifically that he lost so much.
And why would it be the exchange's fault?
Yeah, exactly. Unless they did something to lose it. So they delisted 48% of 145 tokens from his exchange on October 17th or October 2017 to June of this year. I don't think this says anything specific, but apparently they also had a hacking attack where they lost wait, is this number right? 58 billion. Oh, 58 billion won.
Yeah.
Like, what?
$58 billion? I understand. I get it, man. This was, really taking some risks, though.
Yeah. Well, anyways, this is, just, don't.
Threats can come from anywhere, man. Even your front door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the moral of the story is don't invest what you can't afford to lose, right?
Without burning yourself to prove it. I don't know.
Alrighty, moving on. Blizzard Network Insider $1 million exploit. So this is not to be confused with the Blizzard, the gaming company, but Blizzard Network is it's an Avalanche-based smart contract service that they had a vulnerability reported. Telegram user 0xMurloc identified vulnerabilities in Blizzard's contract on September 20th, 2021. The vulnerabilities allowed the contract owner to emergency withdraw everyone's accrued rewards. So only the owner would have been able to perform this withdrawal. So at the time of this identification, the backend developer could have exploited around $10 million worth of TVL. So somebody that knew about this on the backend side could have gone and exploited it, right off the bat. But they went through a little bit of a process, I think, to try to clean this up. So November 1st, Immunify submitted a bug report and found that Blizzard's harvest call, and then the vulnerability allows anyone to artificially increase their rewards value. So this would be them manipulating the number of Blizz tokens to mint for the users. So if exploited, it could generate a massive number of Blizz tokens. The Blizzard team marked it with a medium vulnerability rating and paid a $10,000 bounty. Okay, so just $10,000, right, for this bounty. At the time of the bug report, both PNG-AVEX vaults could have been exploited using this vulnerability, but because anyone could exploit this vulnerability, the Blizzard team retired the affected vaults and re-articulated the requirement for all new vaults. Unfortunately, this is where the kicker of this story comes in. Some members of the Blizzard core team claim that 2 Blizzard insiders, including the backend developer who was given access to the bug report, appear to have used the vulnerability in conjunction with another unreleased USDC SAS vault to exploit Blizzard for approximately $1 million on November 13th. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this?
Wow, I mean that's pretty pretty ballsy for only $1 million, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
if your team knows who you are, and
Yeah, you're not anonymous. Like, they know who you are. Like, you know, probably more than just a username. I mean, maybe they didn't. Maybe we're wrong, and like, you know, but
maybe they have completely anonymous developers.
they have a DAO of developers.
This is something, you know, like when you start looking at any sort of investment, right? Like whether it be DeFi protocols like this, whether it be NFTs, anything, you have to look at the team and you have to at least do some, I don't know, like it's hard. It's very hard, especially in a case where, you know, the team is publicly known. Like in this case, like for example, I actually I'm not sure if like this was like an anonymous team or not, but there's a lot of projects in crypto where it's an anonymous team and you have no information about them whatsoever, and it's just like a blind trust, right? But that's a red flag, right? Like that's absolutely a red flag. And it's something that I see, you know, we've talked about it plenty of times, like teams that are anonymous, teams that have shady people working for them. And, you know, when you have like developers like this on the back end that have that ability to just go and extract funds like this, it's, you know, it's you know, bad scenario. All right, moving on. All right, next story is, so this one I found was pretty interesting because this is an Open Zeppelin vulnerability that was reported and patched in their ERC 1155 contract. So ERC 1155 is a newer NFT contract. So ERC 721 is like the original. 1155 is a little bit more efficient. And I found this one pretty interesting that they marked it as a low severity. Right. So the vulnerability specifically is that the ERC 1155 supply contract, so the contract that would designate how many tokens there could possibly be. There was an issue where the total supply is momentarily lower than the actual circulating tokens during minting. So if you're in the minting process for this NFT, there was potentially times where the total supply would actually be dropped lower than what it actually was. Now, you know, that right off the, like the, you know, by itself doesn't sound like a huge issue, right? Because, you know, ultimately it's going to have to resolve, and then you're going to have, you know, the actual token supply at the correct spot. However, this really reminds me a lot of like reentrancy issues, where potentially, you know, you mint a token, then you re-enter into the same transaction again, mint another one, re-enter in the same transaction, and mint another one. If there was a reentrancy issue in addition to this, I wonder if you could potentially cause some very, very serious issues that are not just, you know, low severity.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about the reentrancy. It reads just like that.
So anyways, if you are developing NFTs, this is something you're going to want to make sure you're using in your contracts. If you have an upcoming NFT, make sure you upgrade the Open Zeppelin contract for there. Next one is a price manipulation attack. So we can't go an episode without talking about flash loans, right?
Oh, we can't.
Don't say flash loan attack. That. Right. It's a trigger word for some people.
Yeah. So we can't go talking about it. So anyways, Welnance, which at first when I saw this, I had trouble with the name. I thought it was like Inance because of the way that Welnance. So it's actually they had a price manipulation issue where they were exploited because of a price manipulation issue via their token on PancakeSwap. So let's see, how much was this one? This was, I think it was like 100K or something around there. It wasn't a crazy large amount, I don't think. Yeah, $100,000. So basically the gist of it is a flash loan. So the attacker was able to do a flash loan for Tether. So $550,000 of Tether to WBNB pair on PancakeSwap. They supplied that 500,000 USDT to Welnance's lending pool as collateral. They then borrowed 385,000 from the lending pool, then manipulated the price by swapping 385,000 to 43,000 USDT on PancakeSwap, which then manipulated the price. So it's a price manipulation issue there, right? Where the price is now inflated. They did if I can actually say this, they then redeemed 492,000 Tether to repay the original flash loan for 551,000, and then ultimately sent 33,000 Tether to the attacker's wallet. So the idea there is you flash loan, inflate a price on an exchange, create a transaction that gets you a little bit more than what you put in because of that inflation, pay off your original debt, and then keep the rest.
Right. My question there is, where do you get the 550,000 USDT? Where do you get the collateral from that? Can you see that in these transactions, like what the user put up as collateral to get that loan in the first place?
That's a good question.
Or do you have to literally start with that much in this case?
So I think, honestly, I don't know. That's a good question. I think as long as you ultimately have the logic within your contract to repay it, that you can borrow whatever. It has to be sent back, right? So like the whole idea is that there is like, I'm going to borrow 550,000, and via the contract code that I've written, the EVM is actually able to see that it's going to be sent back, right? So that logic has to be there, I think, in order to do it. But I don't honestly know if you have to have anything at all.
Yeah, I thought with these flash loans that you could just take out the loan without any collateral, and that was like the whole point, right? As long as you paid it back. It repaid it back within the same transaction, I think. And that was like the whole argument, like whether we should have that or not. And it's just kind of like, well, if you had $500,000, you could do this attack too, right? So the flash loan doesn't actually, I guess does it really make it easier, right? I don't know, but my argument was like, well, then you'd have to have that much money. So then a lot less people would do it, but already a lot less people do it because the skill to do that attack is already like, kind of here, right? You have to know about it and, have it all set up. So still vulnerability though.
Yeah. So, I guess we can move on. The next one isn't really a story. This is a tweet I saw that I thought was interesting. So Mochi contracts apparently had some interesting issues within these contracts. So the price oracle on Mochi is literally just a number set by a hot wallet. So that's kind of funny, right? So typically you would have some other Oracle service or trusted provider for that information, as opposed to just a wallet that sets a value. The Mochi token is upgradable by a 1 of 3 multi-sig with no time lock. So as long as you have one of the 3,
that's not really multi-sig.
Yeah, it's not really multi-sig, exactly. The same multi-sig owns 99.5% of all Mochi. Yeah. Anyways, it's just this isn't really a story. We can skip over this one for the most part. I just thought it was kind of funny analysis of a contract that's out there. All right, so the next one is it's actually another tweet. So this one is about a vulnerability that was found in OpenSea that I thought was kind of interesting. So effing rug, I'm not going to say the .eth found a vulnerability where they were able to make it appear that when you minted an NFT, that it was minted by a certain address. Now we've seen somewhat similar kind of attacks, but this one's kind of unique. So a bad actor could have easily used this knowledge to mint, fake blue chip NFTs seemingly created by verified wallets. This would have caused a frenzy buy to get in on a new project that dropped by the creator. If coordinated well enough, this attack could potentially drain millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars from unknowing and overexcited collectors. Because as we all know, like people are rushing to, get into a lot of NFT projects. People. I have another story I'll tell you about in a second that I watched yesterday that was like so sad, but it was something where everyone was basically just so hyped, to get into this project, but somebody ended up making some very, very upset people. But anyway, so
in this one, do you when you create or you mint an NFT, which appears to be created by any ETH wallet you choose. So say I choose to make it look like it's your ETH wallet, Bo.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean you get the NFT that I mint, or do I keep it?
Nope, I would get it.
Okay.
So the idea there is, it's kind of like somewhat similar idea to the concept of, let's say that I'm an NFT author, right? Like I create something that I think is cool, but I don't have like a big name. So what I would do, potentially to get more visibility, potentially is just send, an airdrop basically.
Sure.
Some NFTs. Like, so now the problem there is it looks airdropped, right? It looks like you transferred it. Now, what I've seen people do, and I think this is kind of similar here, is where what'll happen is they'll create a contract and then they'll mint the NFT to a wallet. So instead of it having logic where like when you mint it, it comes to your own wallet, they have a like two address as well. So it appears that the address where it ends up actually did the mint transaction themselves. Right. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. So anyways, yeah, so they got let's see, 3 ETH for this, I think. So approximately $15,000. Not bad for the vulnerability. It pays to report your vulns, man. Yeah, so before we go to the next story, I'll talk about what I was talking about previously. So I'm in this Discord for it's like a sci-fi gaming NFT called Phantom Galaxies, which has looked pretty interesting. It's kind of like a mech warrior kind of thing, like space mech warrior. It looks like it's going to be a game of some sort, right? And it's been pretty hyped. Like I can't remember how many people are in this Discord. There's a lot though. Like I think it's like 70,000 or so. And so this has been one that like they have not announced like any sort of minting or anything like that. And yesterday their Discord was compromised. So we've talked about this a few times now where Discords get compromised. So yesterday their Discord was compromised. And so I got an alert, because they tagged everyone in the Discord. And it said, hey, we're minting and only half are gone so far, go to the site to mint. And it was, so the actual site is phantomgalaxies.com. And this malicious actor bought phantomgalaxies.org. So they sent them to phantomgalaxies.org, had people, minting tokens, and they got away with, when I last looked, it was over 260 ETH. So over $1 million by simply hacking a Discord and being able to post a fake minting site. It's like crazy, right? Like, I mean, people are so excited to just ape into projects that they just throw money, right? Like they're like, oh my God, it's minting. I gotta go. I gotta go for it right now, and it's really sad because people are losing a lot of money doing that.
It's funny too, because if you think about it, they're not doing it necessarily because they love the NFT, right? Or because they're just dying to get it. They're doing it because they want to resell it for a profit. And that's like the drive, right? I mean, some people may just want to hold on to it or whatever, but I mean, you got to look at it. When people are throwing that kind of money around, it's because they think they can sell it later for a bigger profit, and that's what gets people rolling. And you got to be the first one there. So,
exactly. All right, moving on. So this next story I think might be my favorite story for the day. So Samczun, or I guess that's how you say it, Samczun. So he's a very, very popular white hat researcher in the crypto world. He has reported some very, very like high profile vulns that saved millions and millions of dollars. Anyways, he made a CTF that at the heart of it, in order to solve the CTF, you had to find the same 0 day that he found in Etherscan. So the thing about this one, I found this fascinating because this is one of those things that's like training the next generation of hackers, right? Like to find the same stuff. Now, this particular 0 day wasn't anything that I would say is immediately exploitable. So it wasn't anything like by leaving it out there for people to find on their own would actually do a whole lot of harm necessarily. Etherscan ended up patching it after this, but so the vuln itself is kind of fascinating. So on Etherscan, if you have a smart contract deployed, you can go through a process of actually like verifying your source code, and what that essentially means is like I would, as the author of the source code, upload it. Etherscan would actually compile the bytecode itself again, and then compare the bytecode to what was previously deployed to determine whether or not that was identical, right? And then if it is, then it is now verified source code, and then anyone can go to Etherscan, find my contract, and they can trust that it was verified, and trust that the contract they're looking at and the code that they see is what is actually there. Now, this is where he found a serious problem. He found an issue in the verification process so that he could actually post code that was different than what was verified on Etherscan. And so like this idea here is kind of mind-blowing, right? Because now you could effectively hide code that people are trusting via Etherscan's verification. So it's one of those moments where it's like, wow, don't always just trust the tools. Go and analyze it yourself. I think the gist of it was that there were some metadata tags that Etherscan just straight up ignored, and if you put code in between these two metadata tags, Etherscan would not take that into effect for the bytecode that was deployed. So so he was able to actually hide code within his actual deployed contract that did not show up on Etherscan. So the idea of the CTF there was people were like, there's something here, but I can't see it. So ultimately what they ended up doing, the guy who solved it, he took the code that was verified on Etherscan. He took it and compiled it himself, right? So he had his own bytecode, and then compared that bytecode to what was actually deployed on the blockchain. And by doing that, he was able to see that there was actually differences there, right? And then he had to go analyze, okay, well, what is different, and how can I go about exploiting it? Anyways, kind of a fascinating story there on a lot of angles. Yeah,
there's kind of honeypots out there, CTFs. There's all kinds of weird things hidden on the blockchains. The Bitcoin has one. It's like the 12 or so transactions spread out to different parts of the blockchain, and people were trying to brute force the key space to get the funds that were sent out into specific key space regions. So pretty cool. He can do all kinds of stuff like this, CTFs, and it's fun.
Oh yeah. All right, moving on. All right, I think this is the last story for the day. This one's not necessarily like an InfoSec story or security hacking story by any means, but it's an interesting one nonetheless because it does involve crypto. So ConstitutionDAO loses a $43 million auction of a rare U.S. Constitution copy. So let me break this down for you a little bit. All right. So first off, what is a DAO? So a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. The idea here is that you have a contract, a smart contract at the heart of what a DAO does, and you have investors that can partake in the DAO and be members of this DAO, where they can now vote on actions that are carried out by the contract itself. So the idea there is you have something that you need to vote on, right? Whether it be moving a historical document to a new location, or whatever, right? And then now you can have stake in those decisions that are being made via the DAO. So what happened is there are actually 13 copies of the original U.S. Constitution from, I think it was like 1787 was the year when these were created. 11 of them are like private, like not in the circulation of the public. So there's only 2 that are publicly I guess like technically privately owned by U.S. citizens. And this copy of it came up for auction recently, and it was literally this week, early this week, that it was announced that this was going to be on auction. And a group of crypto enthusiasts said, "Hey, why don't we just buy it ourselves? Why don't we create a DAO and get some donations and then try to buy it?" So they put together this group. They actually raised, I think, $47 million to bid on this, and they ultimately did not end up winning the bid. Honestly, so the numbers, I'm not entirely sure like why the numbers don't match up there, but so they raised 47 million, but the ultimate price was 43.2 million, and they did not win. So I don't know if that had something to do with like the conversion from ETH or whatnot.
Well, it also says right here that it says they believe they would not have enough money to insure, store, and transfer. So that couple million wasn't enough to, I guess, to be the close the gap, right? I don't know what it is to insure and store this thing. So
yeah, that's a good point, right? So yeah. So anyways, I thought it was kind of an interesting thing to throw in here.
Yeah.
You guys thought?
Yeah, that's still a cool use case for a DAO, right? And
yeah, it's like Insta stock, right? Because they just pretty much made a stock that you could buy and with whatever the goal was. And so the goal was to get this. So that's the asset that backs it. And then, if they had one, then that value of that DAO could have gone up and down, right? So if it started getting traded, right? So kind of cool though.
Yep.
Power to the
right.
people.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, anything else, guys? I think that's pretty much it.
No, I think that wraps it up for today. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We will get the show notes updated with all the latest articles from today. Follow us on Twitter and on YouTube, and we will catch you next week. Talk to you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Yep.